Doug Moylan.
Because they've been asking about it. A lot of them have been, they wanted to hear you a long time ago. So today's our last day of class.
Oh, is it?
Next week's our final exam.
Oh,
And then
okay.
the semester ends. So I saved the best for last.
The semester ends.
Yeah,
Nice.
semester ends. Semester ends, and then they got their final exam, which they're going to rethink their life because it's 100 questions.
Oh no.
Yeah, 100 questions. Essays and everything. They can only use the word "the" once. So, I want them to get creative.
That's right.
Okay. And so anyway, he's here to talk to you about criminal law and some issues and challenges with Guam. Okay, so I'll turn it over to
Thank you.
sir, and let you take over the rest.
Thank you,
I'll be
Major.
over here.
Thank you. So Merry Christmas to everybody. To make this effective, because I was a college student sitting exactly where you guys were at, I took my first year at the University of Guam. A business major. I think I started off as that. But I want this to be effective for you guys. This gentleman here, for the last 3 years that I've been the Attorney General, has been very cooperative, effective and instrumental towards a lot of what we're doing in the Attorney General's office. Major Uggan is the, what is your position over there?
Corrections Facility Assistant Superintendent.
Right, he's the guy that gets things done.
Yeah.
I don't call the director, I call Major Uggan for anything that we need. And he's been very important towards what we call the Deport Air program, the making us safe by getting non-U.S. citizens that break Guam law, U.S. law, out of our jurisdiction. Whether you're progressive Democrat, Republican, fascist, socialist, communist, everybody wants to be safe, right? I think both the Democrats and the Republicans in the United States say they want that, but how you get there is often where the devil in the detail is. The Attorney General is now an elected position. It's called constitutional or organic because before 1998 and before the first election for the Attorney General in 2002, the legislature created the Attorney General. But a decision was made during one of the governor's administration that they needed the Attorney General to be separated from local politics and to be created by Congress. And you guys probably understand what the Organic Act is. And that is what we call a constitution, but that's not really what it is. We are a U.S. territory in the political framework of the United States. Does anybody know who is the proper branch that administers the territories of the United States? It's the Congress. And the territorial status, the ability of the United States of America to bring in territories like Hawaii and Alaska, I think were two of the most recent territories that were made states of the Union, was, it's in the Constitution that says Congress shall administer the territories of the United States. And right now we have 4 U.S. territories. The CNMI is not a U.S. territory. It's a treaty, the Commonwealth of the Northern Marianas. So the Attorney General is considered the chief legal officer of the government of Guam. That is what the Organic Act says the Attorney General is. The significance of putting the Attorney General in the Organic Act, there's twofold. Number one, they cannot eliminate, the local government cannot eliminate the Attorney General because it's Congress that passed it, and they can't diminish the powers of the Attorney General. Now, this isn't a glamour position that you would think that, hey, the more powerful I am, the better off I am, and I enjoy being the Attorney General because I get to tell people what to do. The Attorney General is an important position because it creates the balance necessary in our society. The Attorney General doesn't even come from the United States. It comes from England. The king of old ages had an attorney, and that was the King's Attorney General. The president appoints his Attorney General. You guys remember that? And John F. Kennedy appointed his brother to be the Attorney General. That kind of goes into the intrigue of politics, that these type of positions, President, Attorney General, in the United States model, they're the most powerful positions. The executive branch positions, the Attorney General can indict, can bring people before the courts, can take away life, liberty, property, those sorts of things. So we're talking about everything it means to be a U.S. citizen. You have all these bundle of rights that are given to us through the Constitution and through our local statutes, right? So, having said that, in the picture of what we see from the United States of America to every state of the Union, to the 4 U.S. territories, everybody has an Attorney General. The whole model of Attorney General now is all the states are making them elected. I don't know of any state that doesn't have an elected Attorney General. And of the 4 U.S. territories, I want to say that we're all elected now. CNMI, although that's not a territory, but it's a commonwealth above us, they're elected. But interestingly, on Guam, the Attorney General has civil and criminal. Have you guys been trained on what civil and criminal law is? Obviously, criminal law, those are the ones that affect your liberty, right? The ability to take, the government to take away your freedom and life in certain states where the death penalty is, right? The civil is a different, right? That's the civil side, like the governor and I have disputes and we go to civil court to resolve those civil disputes. So the federal model, the Attorney General is civil and criminal. You know, the U.S. Attorney, Pam Bondi, she is civil and criminal. She has one person handles all criminal federal cases and all civil criminal cases. You go to California, and most states, there's only 4 states that are like the federal model, like we are. You have one Attorney General with civil and criminal of those 4 states. Everybody else has district attorneys and county attorneys in addition to an Attorney General. And what I mean here is that they separate the function. And those are the big states. The small states, the small locations, jurisdictions like Guam, you combine them because it's cheaper. We don't have the money to be spending 2 prima donnas as an Attorney General and then a public prosecutor. Although the law allows us, locals, to create a public prosecutor, it's expensive. Whenever you get a bunch of lawyers together and have to pay for the infrastructure, the office space, the clerks, you create 2 different law firms, 2 different offices, it becomes very expensive. So the model for the small states like Rhode Island, Delaware, I believe, maybe even Alaska, they have one Attorney General that does criminal and civil. Okay? So this is kind of like I'm giving you a crash course on what I've acquired as an attorney. I've been an attorney for 33 years now. I was on a University of Guam Protect Scholarship, and that was back in 1988, I think. So I went to the Board of Regents and I asked the board, and they granted me a Protect Scholarship. So I was educated by our community to become an attorney and then to serve our community after. And that was back in the 1990s when they give you so many years to stay on Guam, and then it basically repays that part of the education they pay for you for being an attorney. So having said that, in my career, I've been in all 3 branches of government. I served in the Superior Court of Guam under Presiding Judge Lamarena. I was there before the Supreme Court was created, and the judiciary of Guam was put into the Organic Act. Our local judiciary, like the Attorney General, was put into the Organic Act. Our judiciary was created there. As well as the legislative. I was the legislative counsel for 6 years under the 24th, 5th, and 6th Guam legislatures, Republican legislatures. And then I was honored to have been elected as the first Attorney General in 2003 to 2006 era. Very controversial. My whole approach towards politics is that it's a temporary job. I'm a temp employee, but I don't like doing things unless I make a difference. I don't like to just sit in an office and twiddle my thumbs or be a bureaucrat. We need to shake things up, especially on Guam. Any of you that have been in the States sees the difference. Quality of life. After 33 years, the most important thing that an Attorney General can do for a community is to improve your quality of life. There are so many statutes out there, it's impossible for an Attorney General himself without a full staff of maybe 96 attorneys and a full staff of clerks and support to do everything that the law requires. So what has all Attorney Generals done? We've tried to do more with less. And that's how I've run this office. It's a political office. Whether you like it or not, the Attorney General is a political position. Whether you want to have a strong Attorney General or a weak Attorney General, there's consequences to that. So everything that you're seeing in the news, you kind of shudder, right? And I was saying to some friends, if you're monitoring Trump right now, you're getting a headache because you're seeing so much going on. He's doing so many things in his 2nd term as the president, and he's in the courts right and left. You name it, the guy is going in and out of the courts. The Supreme Court, they seem to be handling everything that Trump is creating the controversy on, right? That is what government is. That is what the Attorney General is. That is what the governors are, the executive, the legislative, the judicial branches. All of us that are elected, we all have a role. So as I'm speaking, by the way, I want you to raise your hands and ask questions. There's a lot of information dumping that I'm doing right now. It's a lot to take in. I had to go to law school to get to this point in my life where I understand what I think I need to do in order to improve our quality of life. Healthcare, education, and public safety. Every politician, that's the only three things they need to learn in order to run for public office. But saying those three categories, there's so much involved in each one of them. But of all the three, the most important thing that you need to have living in a society is public safety. That is the first on the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You don't need education, you don't need health care as much as you need to be safe in the community. Because literally, criminals will take your life away. And to digress a bit, 2024, I think there was 8 murders. All of them are related to drugs, and 2 of them made the big headlines, national headlines, when the Korean tourist was killed, and then the Valentine's Day murder. Both meth head-related type of addictive behavior that caused their deaths. That's what the police investigations, I think they're still on trial, heading towards that event. Okay, so the AG's office has no term limit. It's part of the executive branch. It's a watchdog type of department. The Attorney General is the chief legal officer of the government of Guam. Those words are magic words that Indiana and certain states have used. In Illinois, Guam has adopted the language of Illinois back in 1998 when Congressman Underwood, your former professor, and he was the president of the University of Guam, also a relative of mine, tight to know. But the point is that Guam has come a long way to create the position of Attorney General in the Organic Act, cannot be removed, cannot be diminished by any local legislation, and is one of the positions on our island that can do so much good. The elected governor on Guam was, does anybody know the date in which the elected governor became the elected in our territorial government? 1970. Organic Act 1950, right? The only government branch that was created locally was the legislature. Everything else was with the feds. The district court was the main government. And the only thing that the Congress did for Guam is make us a U.S. territory and then said, you shall have a legislature that shall be elected and so forth. It wasn't until 1970 that they made it an elected governor. Before that time, my grandfather would tell me it's the admiral, and then the president, I think, appointed the governor, as part of the history getting up to this point. But ever since then, the governor has been elected since 1970. To jump forward to today, since about 1998, when I was in the Guam legislature as a legislative council, the local government, the local people, and the local senators have been taking the governor's powers away because of perceived not doing their job, corruption, whatever you want to call it. The legislatures since about the 1990s, late 1990s, has been taking the power of the governor away because they perceived that one person had too much power. And Guam came from that idea that it was first the admiral, and then they had a governor with all this authority. I call him the alcalde, and I do that with sarcasm because my perception of governor isn't that you get elected and you get to rule the people. And unfortunately, certain governors have fit that mold, that they forget everything that they've promised and then start doing everything in their best interest. We've seen that with business contracts being given to certain governors that have family ties, that's all they're making their family rich, those sorts of things. As I said, does anyone know who the other watchdog of the government is? It's in the Organic Act too, along with the Attorney General. There's another position that's considered a watchdog in order to clean corruption and to keep the leaders honest, spending our money.
Public auditor?
Public auditor. Like the Attorney General, the legislature cannot eliminate the public auditor. B.J. Cruz is a great public auditor with all his background and his capability. But it's the Attorney General in every jurisdiction that is the only chief law enforcement officer and also the chief legal officer. The Organic Act says chief legal officer, but it also means the chief law enforcement officer, top cop, whatever you want to call it. All cases must go up to the Attorney General, and then the Attorney General decides whether or not, and my staff, but the staff is under the Attorney General, decides whether a case should be investigated and prosecuted, including the public auditor reports. You see when BJ issues his reports, makes the news, some government department may have spent or overspent or misspent money. Those reports ultimately have to get to the Attorney General's office, and my staff have to look at it in order to decide whether or not corruption occurred, whether or not a criminal law was violated, or whether or not or a civil law was violated, so that the Attorney General can go before a grand jury, which is made up of all of you, to say that this person violated the law and should be charged criminally, and or go to the courts and say that this government official needs to be given a court order to stop or to return that money that they're trying to spend. That is the job of the Attorney General, and my prosecutors or assistant Attorney Generals under the Attorney General. So there is no term limit for the Attorney General. It's a 4-year term of office. It's elected. One of the great names in Guam's legal history was Charles Troutman. He is the person that drafted the Elected Attorney General's Act for the delegate Underwood, Robert Underwood. And he's passed away since. Charles Troutman said to me in 2003 that, and I was very controversial. I was controversial because I wasn't listening to what the governor wanted, and then we had a difference on how the governor could borrow money. Back then, we only had about a $350 to $400 million budget, the entire government of Guam. And that was in 2003, 2002 era, that sort of thing. He wanted to borrow basically the government budget, which is $350 million. He wanted to bring more money in so that he could fulfill his agenda, chief executive officer, the governor. I said that you needed to follow the Organic Act, which said that you needed to value the property, the appraised value, so you didn't exceed it, and we borrowed too much. Puerto Rico was the perfect example of what happened. They've borrowed too much. They're severely in debt. I think they're over 1.5 million population, maybe 2 million, but they're severely in debt. So back then, I had to make a decision on whether or not we should borrow because they needed my signature, something like what's going on with the governor and the hospital right now. And I said that you need to do the island-wide appraisal first, which they stopped. And what they were doing was they're estimating the value of the property so they could borrow more. Problem was that they actually took the value of the property back in the 2003 era when we were there. You couldn't borrow because we had too much debt already. So that's why, and he took me into court. Supreme Court of Guam says, governor's right. I said, I don't think so. I went to the Ninth Circuit in order to appeal that. They ripped jurisdiction from me. The local politicians went to Congress and says, we think the Supreme Court of Guam should not have any further appeal except to the U.S. Supreme Court. Like when you appeal the Guam Supreme Court, the only way you can change their decisions is the U.S. Supreme Court. So they ripped jurisdiction. I argued the case in the Ninth Circuit, and then I found out that they changed the law. They got Congressman Underwood probably to change the law, whoever was the congressman at the time. The Supreme Court didn't appreciate that, and they said that you must have a right to appeal to us. You can't just take jurisdiction away for this issue. So we actually made it into the United States Supreme Court. And for an attorney, that is your resume, that you've been to the U.S. Supreme Court. Our issue won before the U.S. Supreme Court. But I didn't relish that because Felix Camacho was a friend of mine. Unfortunately, as Republicans, I could not agree with the way that they had interpreted it, but it was a bittersweet type of victory that occurred. That is what an Attorney General needs to do. They need to fight for the people, the welfare of the people, and the good things that occur from the law. The danger with overborrowing is exactly what we're facing today with the hospital. And one of the questions I see here is the difference between the governor and myself on what's occurring, what's playing out. And by the way, you guys go to any jurisdiction, you're going to find every Attorney General fighting with their governor. So this whole thing that it's not the Chamorro way, the local way, the whatever way, the island way, you don't want an Attorney General to roll over because it's your welfare that they're rolling over. I know it's difficult to understand, but that money, those millions of dollars that we government officials have control over, you take that away and you misspend it, or you owe the federal government that money instead of spending it on all of you and your kids and your families, your quality of life's going down. That means you can't pay for the schools, you can't pay for the hospital, and you can't pay for the police, the infrastructure, the prison, and all that. That's the societal. It's hard for each one of us to understand that, but when you go to DMV and they're putting another $100 on your registrations, or your property taxes are going through the roof, or all the fees in the government are increasing, that's when each one of you, each one of us start to feel the impact. So it's more of a macrocosm as opposed to a microcosm. But those are the things, as you're getting educated at the college level, will affect you, because you guys are considered the top of society. The educated, the people that are running our government, running the private sectors and so forth. So first question I have here, and again, you guys need to raise your hands. Okay, this has got to be interactive. I'm not a demagogue up here. I'm trying to answer questions and let you know what's brought me to this point in my life. Can you clearly outline your top 3 priorities for the office of the AG this term and how you are measuring success in each area? Okay, I mentioned Charles Troutman. He developed the language. When I lost that election in 2006, he said to me, because I had done everything by the book, followed the law and so forth, but I was also a politician, right? So I needed to get support. And by the way, the AG's office is nonpartisan. We're not Republican and we're not Democrat. But that doesn't mean you're not a person when you're in that office. You have a value system. You advertise to the voters, right? When you run for office, this is what I will give you if you put me into office. Charles Troutman said the people of Guam needed to elect several attorney generals before they understood what they wanted in an attorney general. And it was so true, because at that time in Guam's history, in 2002, I got elected because of my name, because Kaleo Moylan was my cousin, and he was running as a lieutenant governor with Felix Camacho. You know, I really didn't have a political background before then. When I lost, Felix Camacho took it very badly that I challenged and stopped his borrowing. So the Republicans didn't really support me, and I lost the election. You need to have, and this isn't about me, I'm a temp employee. You need to look at every attorney general, every public auditor, every watchdog of the government in order to understand who's going to protect us if you have an alcalde in that governor's position. That unquestioning, I am the governor of Guam, you can't question me, I want to build that, I want to do this. The legislature is supposed to do that. I can tell you, when I was the legislative council in 1998 up until 2002, those Democrat governors were running ragged right over Mark Forbes and our legislatures. I was the only one that would be the attorney going into court to try to fight the powerful governor. I think it was Gutierrez at the time. So that's the significance of an attorney general, is to go to court and to fight for you in the courts, and especially for criminal cases, among you specifically. You guys are the ones that are putting these people in jail. Those 75 convictions since I've taken office, those are trial wins that we've had with my team. We've begged, borrowed, and stealed to get our attorneys and our prosecutors into the Guam. We don't have enough attorneys on Guam. I put together a ragtag group of French Foreign Legion guys that are headhunting the criminals out there. I make no bone about it. We are hunting them down, and we're taking them before you people. It's not the Attorney General that gets people convicted and gets his prison full. It's the people of Guam and the attorneys in my office that will not do plea deals, that lets the criminal back out in the street, that puts them back in your yard at 3 o'clock in the morning, meth addicted, and taking everything that they can take out of your yard so they can sell it for their meth. That's what we're fighting right now. So for this question that you have, 3 top priorities of the office. The overall priority is to improve our quality of life. Easily said, but it requires a lot of thinking on how to improve the quality of life, right? What is the most important thing in all of our quality of life?
Public safety.
Public safety. And how do you pay for the public safety? It's money, right? So for the quality of life question, how do you improve our overall quality of life? We need to have the money in order to, look at Trump. He's freaking going after the tariffs, right? He's worried about the Supreme Court going to rip away that tariff authority. His policies are going to start going down once he cannot deal with the world trades and everything that's going around. Guam's success or failure is how much money we have as a society. I told you we had about a $400 million budget 20 years ago. We're at $1.35 billion. That's how huge the budget is for the government of Guam. And I ask as a citizen, resident of Guam, where's the money? Everybody and their brother is shutting down right now. DFS, unprecedented. DFS has always been there. Tumon is shutting down. All businesses are beginning to shut down, all the private sector, because there's not enough money in the economy. Hafaloa, what's it? Is that the place? I just saw something on Facebook. They're shutting down. What is causing this shutdown? When money stops flowing in our economy, our quality of life goes down. What's up with the Agana pool? I was growing up. We went down to the Agana pool, swam in it, beautiful pool. These are the questions you need to ask yourself. How come they're not fixing the roads in the villages? The roads are all falling apart. This is what we talk about with quality of life. It takes money in order to provide for it. So overall quality of life, the Attorney General looks at it and sees how I divert my resources to improve our quality of life. That's number one in my list of the three. Crime. You need to stop crime. You need to stop the criminal. You need to either lock them up or reform them. I'm not a big fan of reform, because when you're in a triage situation, you put those guys in prison, because if you don't, they're going to be creating more crime victims. And what does crime victim mean? Suffering, right? You don't know what a meth addict is until you've dealt with one, either as a family member. I think I've had maybe 3 or 4 of my own family members die because of meth, or repeat criminals. People that just don't get it and don't want to live with us in a civilized society, put them at DOC and lock them up. I don't like this, oh, let's hold their hand, let's get them some reform. When you're talking to a crime victim and then you're looking at a criminal who chose to take that drug that transforms your brain, there is no reform for them. You need to lock them up like an animal, keep them there so that you're safe at night. You don't have to worry about your wife. The Valentine's Day murder. She was spending an evening with her friends in that restaurant, that Thai restaurant. She left at about 10 o'clock. They watched her, walked it to her car, went up to her, 2 of them, put a gun to her, said they want the money, and shot her. Senseless killing. They needed the money for the meth. That's what it does to the brains. It transforms you. All you think about is how to get that meth. They've turned from being criminals to being nonviolent criminals to violent criminals to murder. Game over. As you get older, life, you're either alive or you're not. All these concepts, all this education is worthless once you're dead. I talked to the son and the husband of the woman that was killed, the Vietnamese woman that was killed. They were so not understanding what had happened, and it was heartbreaking to talk to them because they relied upon me as the Attorney General to do what I thought was right. There was no way their mother and their wife was going to come back, obviously. Taken from them by at least 2 meth addicts. The Korean tourist murder. Does anyone know what happened to the guy that shot the Korean tourists? There was 2 of them. What? Right. So, but that tells you, because we don't have those serial killers that you have like in those cities in the States, Portland, where they're just nuts. They grow up nuts. What we have here are people that we go to church, are sitting next to one another, but they're being poisoned and changed by the drug meth. The guy that killed himself, GPD did a great job. They tracked him down, I think, within 2 weeks. I think it was his girlfriend that they got the lead from. They found out where he was. He was in a car as the GPD converged on him. He knew that he was caught. He didn't throw his gun out and say that, hey, you got me, take me to DOC and, I'll get out eventually. He put the gun to his head and he shot him. That's not the act of a true criminal. That's the act of a person who is meth addicted, was sorry for what he did. I had the governor calling me that night, asking me not to cut the body open with the territorial pathologist for the Korean tourist that died, the nuclear physicist that came to Guam for retirement for his gift from his family, because they wanted to wait till the family came here before they started to cut him up and to do the autopsy. That is what our society is facing right now. Crime. The two greatest problems Guam has right now within that category of crime, meth addicts and repeat criminals. That's what we're seeing in the AG's office. That's the greatest fight that I'm fighting with my prosecutors. You can't fight against a meth addict. Now, I don't know if any of you guys have ever known one. They transform. You can't trust them with any of your property. You go to work, they're at home emptying out your safe, your jewelry, taking it so that they can sell it so they can get a little bit more meth. All the police reports that you're seeing, look at all those cars they're pulling over. Unregistered vehicle, license plates that don't match the cars. We're not seeing that people are reporting them missing and stuff. What that's going on out there when the cops are so good pulling them over, and then the guys get out of the car and they're dancing or going in circles or asking, where's the dog? You know what I mean? First of all, they're delusional, and that's why they're getting caught. They can't drive straight. But they're using the vehicles as collateral because they take the vehicle, they say that you give me some meth and I'll let you use this vehicle. That's what's going on out there in the community. See, this is what the police, what Major Ogden was dealing with. So that's one of the greatest priorities in our office, is to separate the meth addicts from the rest of us and the repeat criminals. Repeat criminals are guys that just don't get it. You guys did a great capstone a few weeks ago, the 3 strikes law. That woke us up at the AG's office and woke me up to my prosecutors to tell them, are you guys doing analysis on the sentencing with all these rap sheets that we're seeing? And you know, most of it I'm being told is for the violent crimes. You got to be convicted of the violent crimes, right? 3 of them, and then you get life sentence. They throw the book away. That's in our law. A lot of these people, it's not considered violence to be caught for meth and convicted for possession, is what we call it.
So on this drug stuff, I want to get to that 3 strikes thing too, but on the drugs, what should our leaders be doing to try to address the drugs? I mean, what are we not doing?
Lock the port down.
Okay.
Everybody knows that Guam is an island. There's only 2 ways you're getting into Guam: over that ocean or in a plane. Economics 101, right? You drive the supply down, the price is going to go up. Right now, when I took office, I think they were saying that the price of meth per gram, and that's how they measure it, was like, I want to say, up to 100 to 150, something like that. Some people say it's even lower than that. The chief just told me it's going up. It's going up to 250, which is it's good for law enforcement because that means that we're doing something. But where it's coming in is that port. It's either coming in through those containers. That's why when the customs officers tell us quietly that there's 150 container locks that are being cut and changed, and then I get the director of customs saying, oh, it's only 1 number off. I'm going, are you kidding me? 100 locks on containers, 100 to 150, when they check them from California, they put the locks on a container, and then they put the customs on the bill of lading. This is the lock number. Nobody's supposed to touch that lock until customs opens it on Guam. But customs is saying before they get to that container, there's a different lock number on it. And when I get the director of customs saying that, oh, before the legislature, I think he testified, you give me a break. It's on YouTube. Check that release, I think it was February, by the U.S. Attorney's Office, Long Beach. They caught him, and those guys were getting the numbers right. It was the Chinese and these consolidators. They were bringing counterfeit goods in the containers and drugs in California, Long Beach. And then a few months later, in Florida, they caught them. They were bringing in the drugs through the containers. So that's number 1. You got to stop those containers. The governor controls that port. She appoints that board. 1 executive order, every cargo needs to be checked for meth. You drive the quantity down, price goes up. I don't care about the airplanes. They're not bringing in the quantity. But Guam has too much meth. They have meth houses out there now. You can smoke the pipe for $10. So, they're giving it to the customers so they can make it more affordable, sell more meth. That's their business, the drug dealers. So the fact that the governor doesn't want to do that, and the fact that you're hearing the director of customs kind of shrugging his shoulders, we're just one number off, that's the whole point. They're changing the locks, and they can't even get the numbers right on the locks. So, but that's one source. The other source is probably the Chinese ships and those fishing boats that are getting launched from the south. There's a lot of places you can just put your trailer down and launch your boats, your fishing boats. Bad Boys 2, right? That was the whole essence of the movie. They go out there, they meet the ship up, they grab the stuff, and they bring it in through the harbor, right? Any place that you can put that trailer in and bring in the meth. So what do I say to the governor? Activate your National Guard, get your night goggles, look at the oceans, work with Custom or with Coast Guard and with the military. They know exactly what's on the ocean out there. They could quickly identify boats that are coming into Guam. Hell, we've got, two aircraft carriers from China that were just off of Guam. The Chinese, they call the Tongs, right? That's their syndicate. White slavery, drugs, anything for the syndicates, right? We got these Chinese guys that are getting on the boats from Saipan and who knows from where, coming in at night. Why isn't the governor locking down our oceans, our areas? That's what the National Guard is for. They've got all the equipment for that. Why isn't she doing it? So these are the things that an attorney general is asking, and this is why when you're seeing the indictments coming in, the PUA indictments, why is a person that was charged at DOC with crimes of drug contraband, that guard, running the port marina? Why did the administration choose that person who's now under federal indictment for the PUA case? Those are the questions that the Attorney General's office has been asking. We're investigating. The U.S. Attorney's Office has a lot of sealed indictments on what's going on. And where's the money going? The $2 million, the $1.9 million? Where'd the money go? It's called laundering, right? So where did they take the money? Where'd they put it? If you see the federal indictment, they're going to the bank, they're cashing out those checks, but they don't show where the money went. And what's up with the governor doesn't want to lock that port down, inspect it for any of the drugs coming through there. She doesn't want to activate the National Guard in order to check the points around Guam for the drugs coming in. Did you guys hear Jeff's Pirates Cove? Jeff Pleadwell, I think it was late last year. He calls me up, I think it was a Saturday, and he says, I got a bunch of white packages that are washing up on his Jeff's Pirates Cove. Police were called down there, drugs. So, it's typical. They're dropping the drugs in the ocean. They're getting the boats to go out there. I'm even hearing that they're putting on the reef, and you got the Micronesians going down in their scuba gear and getting the meth into Guam that way. So the chief executive is in control of the most money in our government, the $1.3 billion. 80% of it is controlled by the governor and her cabinet. They're responsible for our welfare, our safety, and so forth. So crime, yes?
Sorry, is it difficult to lock the port down and
Well, that's the excuse that she does, right? So the proposal that we gave, and it's on our website, by the way, if you look at the news releases, that report, I think it's 100 pages of it, that we published it out there. That came from a customs officer, and then some other informant gave us the photos of the 8 cement trucks, one of them with this huge bear in the front of it. Literally one of those teddy bear type things was in the passenger seat of that big cement truck that came in through the port. If any of you know customs, you can't transport anything with anything in those vehicles, whether it's the trunk or anywhere else. That thing sat there for 6 days. Cameras weren't working, and then the bear was missing when customs eventually got to it. So the governor can do it. All she has to do is tell the board, issue an executive order. Every piece of cargo will have the dogs go and check it. I was the head of the opioid council. In 2023, we convened the meeting, I think it was February or March. I immediately got 18 canines. I already knew it when I came in as AG. It's the drugs. What's the best way to find drugs? Is the dogs. It took them 2 years to get those dogs. Draco is one of the dogs that I think that we had purchased. So, and he's the one that's showing up on all the police reports. That was the funny thing. We had one of the police reports that said the occupant of the car. What did he say?
They have the vest of the cop that says K9, and then he asks, "Is the dog with you?"
Yeah. So no, but can we check your car? So they're finding the pipes, they're finding the meth, but these are the end. But the most scary thing when they do that check is they find a gun. So who do you think they're going to use the gun on? It's the place they're going to rob in order to grab the property so they can buy more meth. I've heard they're going after coolers in people's driveways. They grab anything that they can get. By the way, that viral video, that guy that beat up that other guy because he took his blower, it's on some recent viral thing. I get in the Moylan Minute, by the way. I was down south when we did an outreach there, and I was literally fighting with one of the homeowners there, that one with the, can you shoot somebody taking your lawnmower? He wanted to shoot him, and he wanted to kill him. So, you can't do that because you can't use deadly force when it's just property involved. You got to say to the police, I felt my life was in danger. So, but if you say the right things to the police officer, you're okay. You say the wrong things to the police officer, he deserved it. That can get you in trouble. And we're talking about the Castle Doctrine. But you see, this is the level of conversation that literally when we go out and talk to the community about what the Castle Doctrine is, how to properly use it, they're fighting with me because it's the anger that you don't feel safe anymore in your home. One of the things that during the election, like, do you feel safe at 3 o'clock in the morning anymore? I know you don't. Da-da-do, those guys are jumping the gates and they're coming in at night and you're spending all this money on security systems when you should be spending it on your kids' education, going vacations, stuff like that. And by the way, the best thing to have is the dog in your homes. The dog is the fastest thing that alerts you to prowlers at night. And the meth addicts, they're up for 2 days, sleeping for 1. It's because they're so addicted and the methamphetamine keeps them active. And that's why people know they got a meth house next door, is that they see them washing the car or playing their music at 2 o'clock in the morning, walking around the house 20 times. But literally, I think one of my guys, somebody had grabbed something off one of the billboards and no facility, and for every 100,000 people, there's a formula, right, of how many beds you need for the mentally ill. This government doesn't even have a mental institution. Mental health, I think they have 1 or 2 beds, and that's not even long term. So I get the governor coming up to me in 2023, I think it was, and she was saying, well, we have this new approach, give them the meds in the daytime and then let them out. And I'm going, some people you can't let out because we see them getting picked up by the cops, taken over to DOC, and DOC, you're not supposed to put people that are criminally or have a mental problem, incarcerate them. You're supposed to put them in an insane asylum, an institution. Guam doesn't have that. We don't have so many foundations that we need as a government because they're always saying about the money and stuff like that. So on that question, by the way, the first one is the crime, second one is the meth, the repeat criminals category. And then the third priority for this administration, it has to be said, it's the hospital. To try to make this very simple for you guys, coronavirus, or the whole 2020, 2021 COVID problem, about $1 billion was infused into our economy, supercharged our economy. And by the way, the Governor's Bank of Guam has no contract. How the hell does that bank have no contract with the government? It wasn't bid out, it wasn't competitive, and this governor has presided for 8 years without one contract for that Bank of Guam, and they handle all of our money. They handled over $1 billion of federal money, and that last $105 million that she invested into this hospital that cost $1.5 billion, we warned her in December 2024, a year ago, you can't spend the money on that hospital because it's violating all these rules. She ignored me completely. I says, you want to sit down, we can use that $105 million where the law allows, because the Congress gave all the jurisdictions the money and says you must follow the local law in spending it. So anyways, you guys know about GURA, about how they didn't have a proper meeting, they didn't tell anybody in the public what they were doing with the governor in December, I think it was November and December. So we issued the opinions saying you violated the open government law. People have a right to know what you guys were talking about, and you didn't properly notice it. 2 legal opinions came out of our office. Governor persisted. You know what happened in Massachusetts with that, that money that was given in COVID?
They have to pay it back.
$1 billion. They didn't even file a lawsuit. The feds talked to the Massachusetts government, and they said, you guys just spent $1 billion on, I think it was overtime and paying for salaries and stuff like that. You violated the, your local law and the federal rules on this. So the Treasury Department says, you owe us $1 billion. And they now, it's online by the way, just Google Massachusetts and settlement and the COVID money. And I think for the next, whatever, 5 to 10 years, something like that, they have to pay back hundreds of millions of dollars every year back to the federal government. What do you think that's doing to their economy? They don't have that $100 million now. They got to give it back to the Congress, the Treasury Department. That's the situation that Guam is in right now with $105 million that the governor wants to put into the hospital. You know how much that hospital is?
$1 billion.
1 to 1.5 billion. The government doesn't even have the plans for a hospital. They don't know the actual cost of it. They don't know what it's going to look like. She calls it a medical complex. But they have no drawings. How can you proceed on doing this without drawings? And by the way, there's another federal violation. It's all in federal court right now. You can't use the federal money as seed money when you don't have the funding. And what was the Attorney General standing up for when we did this? Number one, for all of you, so we don't have to pay those guys back $105 million. But number two, the legislature. The legislature is the proper authority, power of the purse, right? You learned that in social studies. She did not ask the legislature to commit us to a $1.5 billion debt. She took $100 million, says we're going to build a hospital there. Well, I'm going, where do you get the rest of the money? Nothing. Crickets. And you saw how Senator Terlahi and Barnett, under the last legislature, they were trying to stand up to her. Without an attorney general, like what I went through in 1998, the governor is more powerful than a good governor that knows how to use lawyers, like Bill Clinton did and stuff like that, Obama. They can run circles around the legislature because the legislature is not an enforcement department. All they're supposed to do is pass legislations, do oversight hearings, get information, right? So it's up to the Attorney General to go in and protect the people. Local lawsuits usually don't go very far. If you saw what happened in Judge Iriarte's court, that was Gura trying to take the property from those 2 landowners, right? Dr. Joseph and that Chinese company, I think. And Judge Iriarte came down and says, you can't do it because you violated Gura's rules. She was using a straw person backdoor to try to get her medical complex. And in that case, they took 2 properties and then they paid, I think, $3 million for 2 other properties. So we just issued a letter to HUD, which oversees Gura. You guys better investigate, Inspector General, you guys better investigate the Gura, because not only did this judge say it was illegal for them to take that property and try to give them $6 million for it, but the $3 million that they negotiated a deal with, it's also in violation, because you can't be buying a hospital, Gura, unless you have an existing housing plan set up. At the minimum, they had to do that. The Discovery, when they did all the depositions for all the Gura officials, they had nothing. The governor, harebrained idea, last minute, wanted to commit this to her legacy, whatever you want to call it, committed $105 million, used about $6 to $10 million with Gura. That's how harebrained everything was going. That's why they needed the lawyers and my investigators and everybody to ask the questions in order to figure this out. But that's the 3 priorities that this term of office, the 4 years that I've been in, is focusing upon.
So, may I ask, what happens now, that $100 million, you guys are going to court,
Right.
right? And my understanding is it's got to be used by December of next year.
According to the public testimony that the legislature just received, she has this. Now, this morphed, okay? in December of 2024, you needed to lock it in with the federal government. You need to commit it to what the governor of every state and territory, this is what we're going to use the COVID money for, period. Okay? So what she did was she said, hospital, medical facility. What she did after we filed our lawsuit in December of 2024, when she refused to listen, she changed it. And it was in February. We believe it was in February. She went to Gita, because that's what we said. The proper way would have to go to Gita and then go to the legislature for condemning the properties and so forth, let alone the whole project itself, right? Who's going to get the financing, how much, how big it? She went to Gita in February of 2024 after she saw our 25, she saw our lawsuit, and she said, CCU, you guys build the infrastructure. Well, that wasn't part of the original commitment that you made in December 2024. So she's morphed it, and that's what you're hearing right now. You see all these, you kind of read all the things that's going on in the news. So the Consolidated Commission on Utilities is suing me, trying to get me out of the review process, because I already told them, we got 2 legal opinions and a lawsuit that says that this whole harebrained scheme of the governor is violating many different laws at different levels. So they ran to the legislature, right? How many times did she call the legislature into session in order to try to get them to pass? Let's get the AG out of this. That's what she's doing in those bills that she's sending over. Let's not listen to him. You guys, let's just build the infrastructure. $105 million to somewhere around here, right? Back road to Anderson. Manila, right? 105 million. So I'm looking at the CCU and going, to where? And then they say, oh, we're going to build it. We can use the infrastructure. Manila and Isa. Is there any land trust property that people are living on, like in Dedido and Jigo? Don't they need the infrastructure? You know, these are the questions. So you wonder, why is the CCU trying to build $105 million in infrastructure for a hospital that won't be seen for 10 years? For a $1.5 billion project that we have no money for. Nobody's appropriated the money. So this is what's going to happen. If she built that thing, and if the Treasury Department will not issue her a letter saying that what she did is okay, they are not issuing her. I've even talked to the Treasury Department people. They're aware of what's going on, but they're just watching everything right now. You build that, you spend $105 million, and she's got to do it by February in order for her, because by December of this year, next year, they have to spend it. It has to be out of the account and spent. They can't build that infrastructure unless they override the AG and pay out the engineering and everything else they need to do by February. That's what they said to the senators. So the danger of what she's doing is she's going to spend $105 million for a bunch of power poles, wire, transformers. We litigated in court. They find out that, and I think it's a high probability they're going to find out it's illegal, what was done. We now have to pay $105 million back to the federal government for a bunch of power poles and wire that have been routed, whatever their routing is. That's how harebrained. We are, by the way, the $20 million that the legislature just passed a bill on, did you hear about that in the news? It was the latest thing in the newspaper for the hospital, the current hospital. They didn't even give her the $20 million. They said to the governor, you got $20 million in your budget, you have transfer authority, just find it and fix it. Are you kidding me? So what are you going to do when the Treasury Department sends you a bill for $105 million and you've already invested it in infrastructure that nobody's going to benefit? Manila has power and water and whatever already. By the way, it's not just, the 105 is also for GWA, the CCU. So you got to question those guys up there. What are they doing with this governor? You guys got a problem with Okudu, that power plant over there. You guys got a problem with who, and by the way, another investigation we're doing, who authorized that fuel lines to be under Route 16? Did you guys see that? For those of you that live up north, you see them digging up the road? You know what they put under there? They put fuel lines for Okudu power plant. You realize, first of all, they poisoned Jigo, right? Something's going on with that water up in Jigo. You break a line pressurized with those trucks pounding that ground, we won't determine that there's a leak until we're tasting our water and something's oily in it. That's how dangerous this government is operating right now. And those guys, when we asked them, we did a Sunshine Act request on GPA. Where's the clearances that you got to put those fuel lines under the main road? They're saying, oh, DPW or something like that was the one that okayed it. You know, this is an island. You poison that water well, what do you call it? The aquifer. Right. That's the main drinking water for Dededo. The second largest village, was it Jigo's the largest village. So you already got poisoning going up there. And they think it may have been because of the development that there's some what is it, that chemical that they used to spray? They think dieldrin. The chemical that they think that because the military started to break up the foundations and everything, that dieldrin that was in the surface got agitated, and that's why when it rained, it pushed it into the groundwater. Okay, well, you know, that's something that we got to deal with in the past use of chemicals. But to intentionally poison ourselves, that stupid ukudu up there, it's stupid. You put it right next to a hospital that has a smokestack on it in my house. But I mean, it's next to that GMRC, and it's right next to Ukudu High School. There is a statute, by the way, in the books that says you're not supposed to put a power plant next to a school on Guam. It's in the statutes. So some legislature, 10 years ago, they went to the legislature, and those guys up at CCU said, let's put a power plant up there. Are you crazy? That's why those people that designed our infrastructure way back when, in the 1960s, they put it in PD for a reason. And there's room there because it blows out to the ocean. And it's away from everybody. But to put it in Dededo, that's just a power station, and then to put those fuel lines. This is what I'm talking about for these issues that you guys are your criminal justice. These are the issues we need money. We need to use that money wisely. And when somebody doesn't use it right, that's where the public auditor, that's where the Attorney General comes in, and to protect our welfare. They call the primary duty of any Attorney General, the three benefits of having an elected Attorney General are to protect the public interest. It's hard for you to understand what public interest is, and I like to transform that word to protect your quality of life. That is what the primary job of every Attorney General is. The second job of the Attorney General is to create uniform legal policy, kind of academic, but you want one attorney creating a uniform legal policy, because if you don't, you got CCU's attorney fighting with the airport's attorney, fighting with the Attorney General, fighting with some other attorney down the street. Because you guys are paying my salary. Do you want one attorney, or do you want 10 attorneys? And you know, you leave it to attorneys in a room, we're all going to start fighting at the end of the day, right? That's what attorneys do. We like to argue. What does that do to you? Time and money, especially money. So one Attorney General, elected, answerable to the people, and sets uniform legal policy for you, because the Attorney General, you are the client. And the third benefit of an elected Attorney General is that saves money, because I have one law firm with all the attorneys that are salaried. We're not guys that are getting paid by the hour when you have an Attorney General. And this is throughout the United States, you know, when we understand the importance of an Attorney General. So those are the three top priorities of this term of the Attorney General. It's worked out. This is my third year on a 4-year term. I got 12 months left, okay? So it's like a prison sentence. But if you could redesign or reform one major process or institution within Guam's justice government system, courts, prosecutors, oversight, transparency, what would it be, and how would you go about it? Okay, the governor has been screwing with us ever since I gave her problems on her first hospital project. You guys remember 2023 when she was playing nice with the admiral and trying to get us to pay for their hospital? Remember that? That was during Therese Terlahi. She was the speaker at the time. Those guys were getting run rapid. The governor had me up at her government house trying to get me to sign off on that lease agreement. That is the autonomy of the Attorney General, and we issued a legal opinion and said we couldn't do it because, Governor, you didn't ask the legislature to commit us to this construction of this hospital. That was her first plan, by the way, when I came into office, was that she wanted me to sign off on the Eagles Field lease agreement with that admiral. And you know, I always look at the military this way. You're not from Guam. You're here to put Guam on your resume that you were a commanding officer at Andersen Air Force Base or Big Navy, and you're out of here. That's been the history of Guam. Always watch the military guys when they come into Guam. They're nice people, they are doing their job, but they're not going to be here. So that admiral, when he was saying, oh, we worked out, he was playing the negotiator, saying that we're giving you this great deal. We're giving you this property under lease. You build your medical complex up there, and we're all going to be happy. I'll let you use it. But guess what was in that lease agreement? They had Osprey landing pads on it for their military people, and in an event of an emergency, which the admiral or the general could call an emergency, they take the hospital. So we spend $1.5 billion to build their hospital, the federal government, and if they have an aircraft carrier that comes in here burning because they got into a fight with Taiwan, guess who's going to be thrown out of that hospital when your grandfather or your dad has a heart attack and is getting rushed to the only medical facility because they just shut GMH down? It's going to be their priority over our health. That was in that agreement, and we cited it in our legal opinion. So, these are the things that lawyers do. We look at the document, we find the devil in the details, we find out who is paying for this. And did you ask Senator Terlahi, Speaker Terlahi, and Chris Barnett, and all the senators up there? She refused to. So I says, I can't approve it. And then we showed the Guam Supreme Court cases that talk about you can't obligate the legislature. You need their approval first. Function of government, right?
So what in your opinion, if you had the power, what would you do to improve the hospital right now?
Okay, it's exactly what they're doing. What we do with that $105 million, we have a united front. You get all the government elected officials, and by the way, the legislature had a draft resolution. Reprogram that money. Get Delegate Moylan to talk to his Republican buddies up there, and then take that $105 million, get a piece of legislation and authorization. It shall be used to fix that hospital. Because remember, everything can be changed in Congress, right? It's just that under the existing rules, you can't spend it the way that she tries to spend it. So that's why I talked about the legislature just said 20 more million to the hospital. It's funny money because they didn't find any new money for it. They didn't increase our taxes to give them the 20 million. What they did was you said, Governor, we gave you a budget. You reprogram your own money in your budget in order to fix that hospital. You know how pathetic it is to see people donating to fix that hospital? What was in the newspaper? We had people cutting their grass. $1.35 billion we all have kicked in to this economy, and they're asking for handouts to fix that hospital, where you're going to need to go if you have a heart attack, if you have a brain injury. We don't even have a cardiac specialist on Guam. You will die if you have a massive heart attack on Guam. There's no way to save you. The only thing that GMRC has is a stent. Stents do not deal with massive heart attacks. Your grandparents, and Guam suffers from diabetes, are more prone, and Guam, heart disease is one of the biggest problems Guam has. We don't have a heart surgeon. Dr. Concepcion, one of the sons of Guam, has been trying to come back to Guam for years, but he needs a whole team with him to be a cardiac specialist. I think he comes in every once in a while, but you need a full-blown team. When I was in the legislature way back when as the legislative council, our senators were talking about paying for bone specialists. Just pay them to come out here because we need them. We're an island. United's not going to take you. Once you're in a certain condition and you need an IV or something, they're not taking you. I've had clients in the private sector flew jets out of Hong Kong to save their son. Brain injuries are very common on Guam. Concussions, people die because the brain expands when you have a concussion and your brainstem gets popped and you die of, it's brain dead. Guam doesn't have a neurosurgeon. Guam doesn't have a cardiac specialist. All we have are stints.
Is there ways that Guam, like that 100 million, fix GMH, and then have ways where you can encourage the private sector, and for example, Guam just get out of the whole medical business together and find tax incentives or different ways to encourage his business like GRMC to come here and build their facility?
The only problem, and this is why you got to ask, what universe is the governor operating under? You want to build a $1.5 billion hospital. How are you going to pay for it? It's not just building the facility. It's going to staff it, and you're going to have money coming in. We can't even pay for the current bills at the hospital with the money coming in. Not only do the insurance companies nickel and dime the hospital and get away with it because of mismanagement at the hospital, those guys' inability to bring in the money for the actual paying insurance companies, we have to accept everybody, all the Micronesians, all the people that can't afford it, all the poverty-struck people. A public hospital must take in and help people. The Department of Corrections, the police arrest a cancer-struck person with all those expenses with radiology and cancer treatment. Once they're in our custody, we have to pay for it. I get calls from DOC saying, what do we do with this person? You got to pay for it. We have to pay for it. So how do you expect to build a $1.5 billion hospital? You can't even get the doctors in here. You're not even talking about that cost. To get the cardiac specialists here, you're probably looking at maybe $1 million a year for their team, their cardiac team out here. It's worth it. Pay it. Too many people are dying of heart disease. Stent, and as I said, stent isn't going to help you when you need to get cut open for a massive, the arteries put into your heart, an open heart surgery. We can do it, we don't have it. By the way, one of my attorneys, he had a heart problem. Not even the Naval Hospital. You know how many beds the Naval Hospital has? The senators like to whisper it.
It's like 40.
35. 35 beds. Remember when the Eisenhower, what was the aircraft carrier? Theodore Roosevelt. Remember those beautiful photos of that massive the most powerful armament that the United States has, an aircraft carrier, beautiful, coming into to PD. 2,000 COVID diseased people were on there. You know where they put them, right? Tents in an open field. That's why the governor was trying to get us to build their hospital, so that they could take control of a hospital that we fund. So we can't afford it. That's the ultimate. You guys are here to have a better quality of life and to be able to afford your bills and to improve your quality of life because of education, right? But the people that are running the government aren't thinking like we think when we have to pay the bills, pay the water, pay the power, and everything like that. And that's the danger right now, is it's the economic danger of a poor quality of life by not being able to pay our bills. So what we do, we take what we have. We take that hospital. There's a difference between my personal opinion and my legal position. To decide where to build and how to fund it is not my job. That's the legislature. But when they don't follow the law, my job is to stand up for the legislature and say, wait, Governor, you need to go to them first. And that's all I've ever said to her. And the legislature doesn't agree with the governor. That's politics, right? That's the way our democracy works. Figure it out. Put everybody in the room and figure it out. Governor refuses. She's done everything she can to get what she wants. Good thing is she hasn't gotten there yet, and that's to our benefit. Put the money into that hospital, fix the structure, and then start focusing on the proper specialists to man it. And we're going to have to subsidize it. Every year they're coming in under a deficit. You're never going to be able to build that to maintain that hospital. Plus, most of us certain number of us are going to be gone in 10 years. With that, the hospital can't even be built for 10 years. And with the way the military is sucking up all the contractors and all the available infrastructure on Guam, 10 years is, you're lucky if you get it built in 10 years. At least what she wants to build. You fix that hospital like they're trying to do now, and that fire was just the tip of the iceberg. But if you want to build, I don't know how many of you, I don't think any of you born in that, the old GMH on Oka Point. My mom was born there. A lot of the people on Guam, your parents were probably born in that hospital. The one that they keep fighting over to put on Oka Point. The governor is trying to give that property back to the Perez family. Are you kidding me? It was given to the government of Guam for a reason. And now she wants to give back that property? You know, whose best interest is she serving in this? So as fiduciaries, public servants are supposed to be acting on the best interest of our people, right?
Does anybody have any questions?
Yeah.
So the money from the last typhoon, that still hasn't been spent?
It's a good question. Because if you talk to Speaker Blas, Speaker Blas thinks that the governor has been hiding the ball. The governor says she doesn't have the money. That's why she's going to the legislature to appropriate. the public auditor needs to get to the bottom of that question, because something's going on where's the money and how is it being spent. Lester Carlson and DOA Director Byrne are the two people that are playing with where the funds are at. Again, you look at the headlines, you look at Senator Duenas, Chairman Duenas, they're seriously questioning where is the money going and how is the governor transferring things. Because she has a certain amount of transfer authority. She can switch it between departments and agencies and stuff, and not even the legislature is clear. That's why they have those sworn-in committee of the wholes when they're asking them questions, poignant questions. And there was a fund recently that they said existed for the taxes, and they found out it didn't exist. So, you know, they're playing with the money.
Yeah, people needed the relief right after the storm. It's almost, 3 years later.
Right. Well, look at the PUA, right? That's the whole story behind PUA. So you have people closely related to the lieutenant governor and the governor's administration that are being accused by the federal government after sealed indictments are opened of what? About 100 people. They were filing false claims, taking the money from them, and then the corruption involved with that. So, you know, these are those unanswered questions that, what is the fastest way you replace the governor? You need to change, and this is her last term, right, last year? But indebting our people is just as bad as mishandling the money. And that's why that hospital is a danger. So the second question on what is the redesign of the office, create the autonomy. The Department of Administration isn't paying my lawyers. I've got a whole bunch of them that are fighting her. That's how they're playing their little game up there. And we're getting close to indicting people if they keep that up. But it's your government. And that's why I keep saying, take back our government. And the way you take it back is you vote them out of office. Or you indict them if the crime fits. And that is the responsibility of the Attorney General and the U.S. Attorney's Office. And apparently there's a lot of activity that's going on in both our offices.
I know not to get too far, but some of the students in here, you know, in the beginning of the class, you know, I always ask them what they want to do when they grow up or, you know, move on. Some of them want to be attorneys. And Guam right now is facing a shortage of attorneys.
Right.
So, you know, you as an attorney, what would be some of the recommendations that Guam, the government, or
tell the University of Guam
to help with these students, either find ways so they can go to law school and come back? What maybe online? Partnership? What can work?
The thing that has traditionally worked for Guam has been the Protect scholarships. Whenever the Board of Regents decides that there's an area that needs professionals, whether it's doctors, lawyers, whatever, talk to the Board of Regents. Dr. Enriquez, right? She's the president right now. Let her know. The Supreme Court of Guam has already acknowledged we don't have enough lawyers on Guam. So they need no more lawyers, and they need doctors. You need to pay for the doctor like they paid for me to go to school and come back to Guam. Don't stay in the States, come back to Guam. Especially the neurosurgeon and the cardiac specialist, the open heart surgeon. That's one big thing. That's been traditionally what has worked. A lot of my friends, we got Protect scholars, lawyers. One of them was my deputy at the child support. Pretty sure he got one. Donald Calvo, a lawyer in the private sector, he was on a Protect scholarship. A lot of us, but we aged out. We're aging to that point in our life that they didn't have in the 1990s more lawyers coming in. So yeah, lawyers are the ones that, see, we don't need to be trained when you become a senator. A lot of the senators you see, as much as it's good to have people that talk about what are the needs of the community, you need to understand how the government works, and that's what lawyers are trained for. We don't need to get educated at the legislature. There's good that comes from non-lawyers, but in Congress, they're all lawyers. You know, you look in the Senate. That's because they hit the ground already understanding the system. You just got to find the right lawyers to be able to represent your interests. And one of the big things on Guam that we need is a better relationship with Congress, with the United States, with the federal government. Guam is not a battleship. We are not a military base. But this governor has consistently given in to the Department of War and treated us like a military base. You guys realize Congressman Underwood is right. What the hell are we building all these missile silos around here? First of all, it's not going to stop the Chinese. You know, when those missiles start coming over, they're hypersonics. They can't even stop the regular ones. You looked at what happened in Israel. What was it? At the last shot, it was only 50%. Even under their Iron Dome, 3 different missile systems, and their best was at 80%. They still got hit. One nuke, that's it. So we're talking in our part of the world, we should be talking to the Department of Interior. We should be talking to Congress and saying, we are your child here. We don't want to be your military base. It has a place here. But all these missile silos around us, you realize what they do when they need to test them? They tell you to move out of your house. Did you read that part of it? His house. You're next to them, right? Yeah. So when they test those things to make sure they're operational, they're going to tell everybody around there, please leave your house for this amount of time, because they're worried a misfire, the thing's going to come and hit your house. You know, that's the danger that they're exposing to our community. Where's the governor? Where's the speaker of the legislature? Where's every elected official getting together, having a trip to Congress, sitting at Congress and saying, you need to help us here. You need to stop hurting us. And that's why I say, why is the federal government having us build their hospital? They print money. We don't print money. It's nickel and diming us, and that's why I think that everybody's losing perspective. We're Organic Act, the 1950 Organic Act, until somebody closed the loophole or something in there. So this is how when you become part of our government and our think tank and everything that in terms of the ability to improve our quality of life here, we got to stop treating ourselves like a military base. And by the way, the nickel and diming, why doesn't Guam have an air wing out here? Why haven't we had an air wing for the last 50, 40 years, 30 to 40 years? Why don't we have, like Hawaii has, Hickam Field, where they have a full air wing, bomber wing in Hawaii? Under our Organic Act, it says that if any military is stationed out here for 6 months or more, we get their taxes, not the state from where they're from. The government of Guam, the people of Guam, Section 30 money, right? That comes in under that large amount of money that our economy relies upon. Why have they not put an actual air wing up there or a bomber wing? Vietnam, we were flying B-52 bombers 24 hours a day for years. The Arc-Light Memorial, remember that B-52 bomber that was up there? That was in memorial of the Vietnam War. Why did they stop that? We are the perfect place for a bomber wing, perfect place for their fighter wing, because they don't want us to get their taxes. That is insulting to the people of Guam, that we have to deal with all the problems of their military base here. And by the way, this military relocation, guess what I'm hearing? Those 5,000 Marines and their families, they're looking at only keeping them here less than 6 months and then rotating them out. Why? Because some congressmen, a group of them, where their people are from that are being deployed and everything, they want to keep those taxes. They don't want us to have the taxes. Well, how are we going to survive out here? You know what I mean? And that's why I find it insulting that the military is trying to have us build their Osprey ports for their hospital and then tell us that we got to move out of a hospital that we paid for when those guys are printing the money. Those are the things that you college-level students have to understand. And if you run for senator, if you become part of the government, part of the Guam Chamber of Commerce, you have to raise this to the officials and ask them, what are you doing for us in the bigger picture? What is the best thing for Guam to do right now? Go to Taiwan and ask all those silicon producers, open up your shop on Guam. They have the highest technology of those microchips being produced in Taiwan. What did Britain do to Hong Kong when they knew they had to move out? They offered all their industrialists citizenship in the UK. Why did they do that? Because they took their money. Hong Kong, before it went back to China, Britain told all the industrialists in there, come to Britain, we'll give you Britain's citizenship, you bring your money with you. And that's what happened. Guam, Taiwan's going to fall. That's stupid to defend Taiwan. First of all, it's a civil war. What are we getting involved in a civil war of a bunch of Chinese that went to their little island off of, that is Chinese property. For the U.S. to be showing these nice little aircraft carriers around there, they're going to blow them out of the water real quick, and then the World War III is going to start. Get them to leave that island, because they're capitalists, right? The Chiang Kai-shek, that little civil war that they had over there, all the capitalists went to Taiwan. Invite them to the Mariana Islands. Come out here, build your silicon manufacturing chip companies, educate our people, and then we will be independent and they can use the duty-free port. That's what our elected leaders need to start thinking about. It's indefensible. I've been in Taiwan. What is it, 10 minutes before their aircraft from the mainland can take Taiwan? It's just a matter of time before they're going to take it. And you're risking our lives. The U.S. has never won a war in Asia. And the only time we won was when we dropped the bomb. Now everybody has the bomb there. So, but this is going to affect us as people, a people of Guam, and what we need to do in order to increase our quality of life by bringing the finances, by having money to spend, you know, and then a good leaders in order to fix our pool.
Okay, another question. Is there anything your office could do about all the abandoned junk cars?
Yes, good question. So in
They're growing every day.
In 2005, 2006, when I was the last AG, I was working with the Department of Revenue and Tax to get all the VIN numbers and the engine numbers off those cars that were abandoned and go after the owners of those vehicles, okay? Since that time, the legislature has changed the law that gives these car owners some sort of a due process right, so that you've got to send them notices before you touch their car. I get the mayors calling me. For the last 3 years, I've got the mayors calling me saying that everybody's abandoning their cars on the side of the road. We are poisoning ourselves. We're destroying the tourism economy. I've met with the lieutenant governor, I think 5 times, from the moment I came into office to probably 6 months ago. I told them, pass a piece of legislation, if not give it to Lujan's Wrecker, Eurocar. Those are the only 2 companies on Guam that are able to take these junks out of here. It's not a matter of a fair bid procurement. Get those cars out of here and actually pay them if we need to, but they will pay us. If anything, they won't charge us to take them out. You're paying it in your registrations. What are we going to do about it? We're analysis paralysis, or somebody is sitting on their ass up at the governor's office. I've had their attorney in the office. I've had the DPW director. I've had EPA, which both the lieutenant governor and I 2 years ago told her to shut up. Excuse the language. Literally, because EPA, every time you come up with a plan to get those cars out of there, they threaten you with an environmental problem. So I says, okay, so what? We're not going to do anything? Your car's still going to leak into the groundwater. That's how, and by the way, it was the lieutenant governor that told her to back off, because I was telling her, you're part of the problem. Quit, and I'm the one supposed to defend you in court, and I will not defend you, EPA, because you're poisoning us by coming up with all these pathetic reasons why we're going to get cited for whatever. Get those cars out of here, and if it requires going to Dave Lujan, right? Is it, no, Joe Lujan. Joe Lujan. He's the only one on Guam that's been able to take it. Salvage yards are notoriously bad business, right? Who on Guam does salvage yards? There's really nobody except him, and then we've got that C.Y. Liang. I actually had them come down to see the lieutenant governor. And I says, 100% we will support you on it. We even came up with this consent decree. You sue us, and I roll over in court. And then we just consent decree, we get all these vehicles out without having to do any procurements. Because it's an emergency situation. It's dumping all those oils, transmission fluid, into the groundwater, especially up north. That
Could the governor declare a state of emergency?
Yes,
Just to get that
but she can't do anything with it because it releases money, right? The state of emergency. The legislature is ready, but where's the administration getting, like DPW director? Areola was there in the room. The next step, and this was 2023 when I met with them, and we were at the governor's office. We charged Areola, what's his first name again? Vince. We charged Vince Areola to go and do an RFP to get the people, the companies, to submit their proposals on how to get rid of the cars. Nothing. We came back, I think, a year later, 6 months, 8 months later, and I looked at them and I says, did DPW do anything? Nothing. And the Governor's Council was there at the time too. They're talking, but nothing is happening while we're all getting poisoned by these cars, let alone our tourism industry. They're dumping cars all over the place. You can see it. They're bringing in shiploads of cars. There's no relief. These cars are on the side of the road. That's why the mayors are all pissed off, because they literally are parking them next to apartment buildings and then leaving.
Even bus stops.
Exactly. Every place. The only guy that, Mayor Paco, I love the guy. He takes the cars, he puts them in one of his nice, because you go to, what is that village? MTM? Really nice how he takes care of stuff. But he wants to just line them up, go to town on it, every garage, every, garage mechanic, strip them. Because by the way, you leave your car on the side of the road, all you ladies, you better get that car out of there within 24 hours, because it will be on blocks. Your tires will be off of it, and there will be some guy with your engine open with his little toolbox. Literally, when I last left in 2006, I was in one of the AG vehicles in Dededo, Machechi. The guy literally was in the hood, and I drove up to him and says, "Is this your car?" He says, "No." Closes the hood, puts his tools back, gets in the car, and leaves. That's how bad Guam is right now. You leave stuff, they'll take it. And it's probably the meth addicts.
Or
So-
homeless people.
Which one?
Or the homeless.
Yeah, exactly. And the homeless, another solution. We fixed it. That mall encampment, by March of 2023, we cleaned it up. I had the cooperation of the Lieutenant Governor, all the mayors were with me on it. We gave them notice, and a lot of them are meth addicts to begin with. And we did the investigations. We had the guys go up there, do the surveillance, take the photos. We knew what we were dealing with, but we gave them notice. We're coming in there like what Hawaii is doing. In California now. They're just going in there with their bulldozers, grabbing everything, but we were humane about it. We gave them notice we're going to come in and that we're going to clear out your camp because you're on government property, right? DPW was there. The police were there. We did it very properly. The mayor, I think it was, wasn't Mayor Benavente? He was the vice mayor. Savares. Mayor Savares, she used the flea market. We had the Department of Labor, Public Health, everybody there. We had mass transit. They picked up the homeless that were still there. We took them over there, get them a job. That's my approach as an Attorney General. Put these people to work. If you don't want to work, you're going to get thrown in jail for trespassing if you do that. This is what a civilized society does. We don't tolerate it. And don't bring up this not Chamorro. I'm Chamorro. It's more inhumane to let them continue in those homeless camps. When we have the people, we're smart as a people, we can find a solution. Those contractors, day labor, Carl Gutierrez came up with that statement when he was in GVB. Give them an 8-hour job, pay them $50, $100 a day. That's what you do. You put them to labor, you put them to work, clean up some of those parks. So there's solutions, but we're not seeing it. And that's why I say, unlike 20 years ago when we were borrowing money, we didn't have enough money in our economy, we have so much money running through this economy right now. But where's it going? You see it because those pools. The Dededo pool, I don't know, any of you live in Dededo? Remember that nice pool they built up there? Took my kids there. It was closed for what, 8 years? Something like that. They only finally opened it recently. The Aganya pool, another eyesore. Something's wrong with the administration. Seriously wrong with it. Because the quality of life's going down, stores are closing, businesses are closing. Without capitalism, without those private companies, you don't have a community. This territory is going down the tubes. You cannot have a socialist government where everybody's reliant upon a check from the government. That's not the way capitalism was designed. So, and the prison? Build a bigger prison. Until you can get the meth problem under control, you need to put them in prison. Build a bigger prison. So,
Yes. Build a prison.
well, that's another one. The funding, Butler building it. My grandfather, 1950, 1960, they make them in Wisconsin, Butler building. You can put one up in 6 months. Got a lot of property up there.
Well, can you take those homeless ones, put them to labor to build what
We'll
you
take
need?
them,
See, you get a governor to do that.
bring them to us.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, we have
mean,
no
you know-
problem locking people up. A lot of them deserve to be locked up.
And he's doing a great job up at DOC. The fact that they're able to keep that thing under control, overcrowded, I can't confirm overcrowded, but I know they're
Yeah,
that sort of thing. So,
this has been good.
Oh, and graffiti's getting much worse too.
Business is good,
Yeah.
yeah. But anyway,
It's like almost, once you see it everywhere.
but we become used to it. The panhandlers, all this stuff is a deterioration. And the fact that we're not doing anything to at least try to solve it, not this, the numbers are down and they're doing these surveys and stuff. Get in your vans, pick up those homeless, take them to public health if they need help, get them a job, but get them out of the camps. Get them off the streets. It's unacceptable.
yeah, you need to put a centralized area so you can help them.
Right. See, remember the billboard? Government house. Nice property in the front of it.
Where you can help them. 'Cause they're sitting
Centralized.
out there, they're not being helped. They're just sitting there. And they're, potentially they fight, they drink.
Yeah.
They're gonna get hit in the traffic. We already had one a couple years ago get hit right there in the Harmon area, right?
Well, wasn't
Right.
there one that was found on the bench?
Because some of them you may not be able to help, but some of them you probably can.
Probably.
But you need to get to them.
Right.
Get your hand around them first and then figure out what you need to do. But just letting them go day by
If you
day.
could
Yeah.
stand on a corner and beg for 8 hours, you could work for 8 hours.
Exactly.
Because that's,
Exactly.
I wouldn't stand out for 8 hours, yeah.
Well, the ones that assault our officers up in the panhandlers, they have meth on them. So they're taking the money, they're acting as if they're poor. The people I most respect are the ones that say, we'll work for dinner,
So anyway,
lunch.
one last time first, guys. The final exam, what's today? Yeah, you thought I forgot.
Today's Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday?
Wednesday.
Okay, I will send it out. When should I send it out?
Next year. Next year.
Tomorrow. I'll send it out tomorrow, final exam. It's a take-home final exam. Give it to me Monday. Right?
You're sending it tomorrow?
Thursday.
Thursday, it's due Monday?
Monday.
What time?
Give me by 5 o'clock. Okay. Well, if you need extra help, let me know. I mean, tomorrow, because next week's final exam week.
Okay.
So we can work on that, but I'll send it. I don't think you guys are gonna need that much time. I mean, I know I said it's hard and everything,
Well, you
but
said it's like, what, 200 questions?
100 questions, make you rethink your life, but I think most of you will be okay. It's essay, there's a scenario and then there's 3 different choices and stuff, but if you need any extra help after that, let me know.
Major, may I say one more comment?
Yeah.
So, ladies and gentlemen, I think most of my staff here in the room are UOG recent graduates. So I would ask you and invite you to turn your resumes in to the card that Nicole is passing out. I am hiring college graduates, especially paralegals. We're training your staff, your people, your graduates at our office. So I invite you, especially criminal justice majors. We have the investigators, a fast track to become an investigator if you're in the criminal justice area. You are the cream of Guam's crop, the most educated, the brightest. We want the best and the brightest in our office, our law firm. And we've been doing well. Those trial wins that you're seeing is because of the UOG graduates helping out our attorneys, our prosecutors. So please turn your applications in. We are bending over backward to bring you graduates into our office.
I'm sorry, you said you're looking for criminal investigators?
That's one of the options. Immediately you'll be hired as a paralegal because of your college degree. And we even have several that are going to graduate in December that have been working for our office, as well as the internship hours, by the way.
Oh, no, not me.
Oh,
So if you guys have courses with internship requirement,
No, I know someone who-
just turn it in. We process and give you your credit.
looking for something different.
That's under Frank Ishizaki, I think, that handles internship.
So are you gonna run again?
I don't know yet.
Okay.
Honestly, I'm trying to fulfill those promises in 2022. But I can tell you right now, the fastest way to fix this government isn't the Attorney General, it's the governor.
Yeah.
She controls all the money and all that cabinet. She can fix everything that I just talked about and work with the legislature.
I didn't know she didn't have a full-on plan. I mean, like, when you're gonna
No.
build a house, right?
Yeah.
You have your
To get the
initial
estimates.
sketch of
Yeah.
what you wanna build.
To get the estimates.
Right.
Has
So-
anybody ever asked
I
you?
didn't realize that.
The thing that amazes me, somebody like straight up asked her, hey, you can't maintain the existing hospital.
That's what I keep
It's
saying.
a joke, and you want something new?
Right.
Like,
It's like,
We're gonna take a picture
Yeah.
before he goes. He wants to take a class picture.
Well, we should give.
thank you. Thank you very much, all of you.
okay,
Yes.
Then the students can submit.
2 lines. I think we have to step forward, have them.
Come up here and see what we can fit in there.
Oh my gosh.